What's up guys, my name's Jake and today we're looking at my camera settings for my Mavic 2 Pro. Let's do it. Let's hop right into it. Here we are in the DJI Go 4 app and let's change some camera settings. If you see the icon in the bottom right corner, you'll see 3 slider lines. Let's go ahead and click on that. This will bring up our camera settings menu. If you see the top right icon in our subfolder, you'll see a little gear icon. Let's go ahead and click the gear icon to bring up some more display options. Now I won't go over all of these settings, I'll just go over the ones that I find useful to myself. Starting with the histogram, I think this is very useful and it'll help you make sure your shot is properly exposed. You can go ahead and drag and drop this histogram anywhere you would like. Head LEDs auto turn off. I turn this on, so when I'm out recording a video, it actually turns the drone's LEDs off so there are no flashing lights when I'm recording a video. Scrolling down, we see lock gimbal when capture, and what this setting means is that it will hold the camera in place while taking a photograph, even if the drone is accidentally being rotated or moved a bit. It's really useful for when you're taking pictures, but even more useful for when you're taking long exposure pictures. It is useful, but not too relevant when you're doing video recording. For now, I'll leave this option turned off. Going down, enable AFC mode or autofocus continuous. This means that the camera will continually autofocus as the drone moves around. I leave this setting turned off because I do not want my drone to be continually autofocusing in the middle of one of my shots. You know, say you're doing a 20-30 second clip and you're flying around, you really do not want your camera to be, doing this autofocus, pulling in and out of focus, and you see this kind of distorted look. I tend to leave this setting turned off. Next we go to overexposed, and you'll see that if you turn this on, you'll start seeing some almost zebra black and white lines where your image may be overexposed. This is kind of a personal preference. I definitely used this a lot more when I was first learning how to fly and take pictures. This definitely helped me kind of, make sure my photos and video were properly exposed. For now, I'm gonna leave this setting turned off. We'll skip over auto sync HD photo, video caption, and hyperlapse video frame. I always leave these settings turned off. Next, you'll see the grid menu. Let's go ahead and click that. I would always recommend using at least the grid lines. This helps you really frame your shot to make sure everything is properly in frame and you're not, missing some of the object that you're trying to shoot. Personally, I use grid plus diagonals so I can really ensure that, if I'm trying to shoot directly in the center of my frame, I can know exactly where the center of my screen and the subject is. Going to anti-flicker, I leave this setting on auto, and basically what this does is when you're flying around light fixtures, it makes sure that it is not capturing any flicker coming from the light. I've always left this setting on auto and I've never had any issues with flickering. Going down to peaking threshold, this will basically show you what is in focus on your screen or what your camera is focusing on. You see when I switched it to high, you'll see these red lines kind of forming around the stadium, and that'll help you ensure that your subject is fully in focus. I tend to leave this setting off unless it is a absolutely necessary shot that I need to ensure the subject is in focus. Again, a personal preference. Storage location, I always leave this on the SD. So going to our next submenu, in the top middle you'll see a camera icon. Let's go ahead and click on that. This will bring up some more camera settings. So we're starting in our video camera settings. At the top, you'll see video size. I tend to try and leave this on 4K HQ as much as possible. That way I'm ensuring I am capturing the most detail that my camera is capable of capturing. To be honest, I do tend to fly pretty often in 4K full FOV. You'll see when I switch to that, you're getting a much wider field of view for your camera. And this, for me, can be very useful for when I'm shooting some real estate photography and the space might be a little tight and I need to capture as much of the image as possible. So I go ahead and switch to full FOV mode. For now, we'll switch back to 4K HQ. And I always tend to shoot in 24 frames per second. Going down to video format, this really doesn't matter anymore. Kind of back in the day, it did matter when you were either editing on a PC or a Mac. If you're on a PC, you would almost always need to use the MP4 format, and when shooting on Mac, you'd need to use the MOV format. These days, it doesn't really matter, and both kind of work for either situation. Since I'm editing on Mac OS, I just leave it in MOV format. Going down to white balance menu, I would almost always recommend not using the auto feature and instead using either the sunny or cloudy feature. The reason that I do not use the auto feature is because if I'm on my shoot all day and I'm shooting in the morning, maybe the camera's auto white balance may think that it needs more of a blue tint to it, so it'll give it that blue looking tint. And then maybe in the afternoon when I'm shooting the same location, maybe the drone will think that it needs more of a yellow orange tint. So when you get back to editing your video, you may notice that some clips are really blue and some clips are really yellow. So that can really be kind of a pain to try and fix that in post. So that's why I would always recommend using either the sunny or cloudy feature. That way your white balance is going to be the same over all of your clips. For now, I'll leave it in cloudy because it is a cloudy day here. Going down to style, this is more of a personal preference and you guys can change this to see how you guys see fit. You can see here I use the custom with just a +1 on the sharpness. Going down to the color profile, I actually tend to just leave this in normal mode. I know that this may cause some controversy, and I know a lot of people are shooting in the D-Log-M, and that will ensure that you are capturing the most high quality 10-bit color profile that this camera is really capable of capturing. D-Log-M will really unleash the camera's capabilities. The only downside that I have of D-Log is that when I'm trying to edit in post, and you guys can tell me if any of you guys have any of this issue, is that I get a very bad barrel distortion where my images and video are warped and the horizon is warped down, and it can be a kind of a pain and a much more longer process to try and fix this in post. That way I generally just keep this in normal so I don't have to deal with that in post. The camera video coding, I try to leave this at H.265 to ensure I'm recording in the highest video coding. If we see the switch camera icon above the orange record button, we'll go ahead and switch over to our picture mode. And you can see here, when I switch to this, I generally shoot in the single shot mode. This always just determines on what type of shot you are looking for, but generally speaking, I just shoot in the single shot mode. Image size, I'm almost always shooting in 4:3 ratio. Image format, I am 95% of the time shooting in RAW format to ensure I'm capturing the most amount of detail that my camera is capable of capturing. The other times, if I am shooting in JPEG, this is only when a client is specifically requesting that I am shooting in JPEG. For now, we'll leave it in RAW. White balance, we touched on this in the video. It's the same exact thing for photo. I do not recommend shooting in auto and actually selecting either cloudy or sunny. So if you go ahead and switch the camera mode back over to the video mode above the record button, we'll go ahead into our final sub-menu in the top left of this menu, the little color wheel. And here you have full control over your ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. And you can change this for each shot to your specific needs. That's gonna do it for my review on my camera settings for my Mavic 2 Pro. Let me know in the comments below what settings you guys are using. I'd be curious to know if you guys are using that D-Log M color profile or sticking with normal. Leave a comment, hit that like button, and please don't forget to hit that red subscribe button if you guys would like to see any future videos on this channel. Thanks so much, and have a good one.